Hello 3D printing fans, I'm here with the Creality Ender 3 S1 printer. Many of you have trouble getting these things set up, leveling your bed, setting your Z offset, and using your auto bed leveling probe. And I will teach you my method to level the bed, set your Z offset, and use your auto bed leveling probe properly. With my method, you don't need to do any crazy bed leveling print patterns or use any gimmicks with foil and feeler gauges and all that nonsense. I will teach you a simple method to get it done correctly and successfully for proper prints on your very first day. This is the part that hangs up most people in 3D printing, is the initial setup, the tramming of the bed, and the Z offset setting. Now remember, when you set your bed, you're not leveling your bed. That's the term we're going to throw around a lot, is leveling your bed. But really it's tramming. What I mean by that was not necessarily making this bed level, because your printer could print sideways or upside down. It doesn't have to be level. What it has to be is consistent. The distance from your nozzle to your bed has to be consistent at all points. So wherever your nozzle goes, the distance between the nozzle and the bed has to be the same. So we will tram the bed, level the bed, using these adjustment knobs, which will get that distance consistent. Then we'll set our Z height, known as our Z offset, which is the exact distance that is ideal for printing between the bed and the nozzle. And since we've leveled this properly, once we set that distance in one point, it will remain the same all the way around and we'll be able to print. This is where the CR Touch comes into play. You may not be perfect at working your wheels and getting your tramming dialed in perfect. You might have little inconsistencies like 0.05, maybe really bad ones like 0.01. So what happens is this CR Touch probe will probe the bed over and over and over and over and over again. And it's going to make what's called a mesh. That mesh is effectively a map of the bed. And that map will tell it all the little inconsistencies in your tramming job, or maybe even the print bed itself. And it will adjust for those as it prints. That's why we use a CR Touch. It's not really auto bed leveling, but it's a tag team between your tramming and the auto bed leveling mesh. They work together to make your print a better success. So first things first, let's get started. We do that by taking the computer plug. It's the standard computer plug like you'll see on most PCs, giant speakers, and other electronic toys. And simply plug it in to the far right of the machine, the rear right. It's 3 prongs. There's only one way to do it. I don't even need to show you. You can find it. Plug it in. Double check. Make sure your power switch in the back reads 115. If it doesn't, switch it right now. You're going to notice that the machine came with a memory card. On this memory card is your firmware and your first sample print. That print is a G-code, so it's a pre-sliced file ready to be printed to test this machine. Let's stick it in there. The memory slot is right here in the front next to the USB-C port. We are going to take the memory card, face down, prongs up, slip it gently so it's straight, push till it clicks, let it go. Now we're going to reach to the side rear of the machine, flip the power on. You may have heard a clicking sound. That clicking sound is your CR Touch probe deploying 3 times, doing its self-check. Here you'll see on the Ender 3 menu, print, prepare, control, level. We are going to go to prepare. And we are going to press auto home. The printer should home properly. You heard it right there. It clicked the stop switch. That clicked the stop switch. That's how it knows max left, max rear. And the way it knows max Z height is this probe right here is going to touch the bed and trigger the print head to stop. And there you have it, the machine has homed. So by max Z height, of course, I meant minimum Z height, the lowest it can go without crashing into the bed. You'll notice that the nozzle and the print head are not touching the bed. The nozzle will never be touching the bed unless it's probing. The print head is about 10 millimeters above the bed because that is its home position. That is not the correct Z height or Z offset. Even if you change it, this will not change. The Z height will still be roughly 10 millimeters off the bed. Now we're going to manually tram this bed. We do that using the paper method, meaning we are going to tram the bed with a simple piece of paper. Now we're going to go to the Move menu, click on that, go to Move Z, you'll see it reads roughly 10. Don't be alarmed if it's slightly different. Now we're going to move down to 0, being careful not to go into minus. This particular machine will let you choose minus because there's a CR touch on it. So we want to just go to 0 and click it. Now we're going to manually tram this bed. Go back and click Disable Steppers. Disabling the steppers will disable the motors that move the print head and the bed so that it can be moved freely. We're going to move the print head to the left and the print bed back. It doesn't have to be as far to the corner as possible, but you generally want it just roughly in the corner. Now that we're on 0, this is the height we are going to be printing at. Placing the paper under the nozzle, you'll see it's way too high. So what the printer believes to be 0 is not 0. We cannot use this. So we need to bring either the Z offset down, that's lowering the print head, or the bed up by turning the springs. We're going to do both. We're going to take these knobs and together turn them a bunch till they feel snug. We're going to go to the back, and there's 2 wheels in the back. We're going to turn them tighter as well till they feel snug. We're not going to overdo it. We want them to feel consistent, just snug. Now that the springs are consistent, they're snug, equal all around, the bed should generally be at a similar height in all 4 corners. Now that we've tightened all 4 wheels to a consistent tightness, we are going to raise the print bed by unscrewing all 4 knobs in consistent amounts. I grab and I turn together. Now we're going to do the same thing in the back. Grabbing both wheels and twisting them. We're going to check. Still too much space. Do it again. Too much space. We are going to do this a few times until the nozzle is close to the print head, while keeping the springs relatively tight. The idea is that we're going to want to have enough play, tight and loose, to make minor adjustments after. Okay, so I'm pretty happy with that. We are now going to do our Z offset adjustment. So we're going to go ahead and auto home. I like to remove the paper for homing. You'll notice how high it is. This gets a lot of people flustered. They say, oh my God, I set the Z offset And look, it's still really high off the bed because home is 10 millimeters. Home is not your Z offset. All right, we are now gonna tram this bed and set the Z offset my way. I've turned all 4 knobs until the space between the nozzle and the bed is reasonable, leaving enough tension so they're not gonna move on their own, and enough space to tighten or loosen as needed. The next thing we're gonna do is slip the piece of paper underneath the nozzle just like that. Click on move. Click on move Z and go to 0. And that will bring us to roughly where we were when we were turning all of our crazy knobs a little while ago. You'll notice the nozzle is a lot closer to the bed now, but still super loose because it's too high. So your Z height, your Z offset is too high. Let's change that. Now that we've moved to 0, I'm going to click the button to get off that menu, go back, go to Z offset and click it. We're now going to go lower. You'll see you can go 1/100th of a millimeter at a time. That's a very small amount. So we are going to start by going, quite a bit, watching it come down, staring at it closely, your eyes on that nozzle. Doing like this. As it starts to get close, we're going to go smaller amounts at a time. Smaller, slower, smaller, slower as it gets closer to the bed, or minus. All of a sudden, you are going to start to feel the nozzle on the paper. You see that? It's not sliding so smooth anymore. So what we're going to do is come up a little bit, and we're going to play with that until you can grab the end of the paper and push it back and forth, feeling some tension, but not with the paper bunching up. So if it's too low, you see the papers won't move. See the difference? That's what I want, okay? Now, and manually tram this bed using this Z offset. Be careful, if the bed's really bad, you will drag the nozzle across the bed during this part. If that happens, you might need to bring your Z offset back up a touch. You'll see it didn't happen here because I did a pretty darn good job setting my initial wheels. So we're going to take this thing and just feel it. You'll notice it doesn't feel like I want over here. It's kind of loose again. So we've got our paper under the nozzle, and we are going to loosen the screw slowly. This will allow the spring to expand. Looser knob, higher bed. Tighter knob, lower bed. Uh-oh, look what happened when I was loosening it. It got really snug. When you do this, you're going to take your time because sometimes your adjustments don't happen right away. You don't feel them in real time. So we loosen a little bit and we feel it. Look at the difference right there. Go a little tighter, too tight, a little looser, just right. Slide this over to the other side. Again, being careful. If it's too high, it's going to grind into your bed, so watch out for that. If it grinds into your bed, turn this knob tighter to bring it down more. That's why to leave some space. Look how tight that is. So we're going to tighten this knob, right? We're turning it tighter, screwing it in. That's going to pull the bed down and loosen the paper. See how loose it is now? Now we're going to turn this knob the opposite direction, looser to make the bed go higher until I feel a little bit of snug on that. I feel it, a little bit of vibration. Now we're going to grab the bed and pull it to the other corner in the back. Now we're in the back rear. I'll feel it again. Ooh, it feels super tight. Super tight, way too tight. Grab that knob. I know it's hard to see. There it is. And grab that knob. And we're just going to turn it tighter to bring the bed down. So we do that, and what do you know, the paper gets a little better. Oh, now look how loose it is. So now we're going to unscrew it a bit. There it is. I like it. Other side. Get it underneath the nozzle. Are you detecting a trend here? It's under the nozzle, it's too loose. we're going to unscrew the knob, making it looser. That brings the bed up to the nozzle, right? Brings the bed up to the nozzle. Now I can feel it. Guess what we're going to do now? Check the other corner. Uh-oh. Now it's tighter here than it was before. That's because when you bring one corner down, right, the other corner comes up. Other corner down, the other corner comes up. Vice versa. So we have to continue to make small adjustments until we're level. Large adjustments will continue to ruin opposite sides. So we're going to turn that until it feels good. Bring it over here. I don't mind it. Bring it back. I know like it's too tight, so I tighten the knob a little bit more again. Still too tight. I tighten the knob a little more again. That's better. Come back over here again. That's better. Here. Better. Here. And a little loose again. Just gonna unscrew it just a touch. Until I feel it. There you go, now I feel it. We'll go around again. Not bad. Round again. No likey this one, now it's too loose. So we'll bring this one up by loosening it. You know why? Because we adjusted the other corner. You adjust one corner, it adjusts the other corner. I feel it. This one's a little tighter than I want now. So just ever so slight, just real gentle. Okay? We're getting it down now, so real gentle. I like it. Let's go over here. Yeah, this one's not so bad. Real gentle, a little tighter. It's a little too much vibration. Okay, real time. This is it. We're doing it together. It's a little tight. Feel good there. It's a little tight. It felt good there. So there you go. I'm pretty pleased with it. Feels pretty consistent all the way around. But don't be afraid to check and recheck, especially because these springs are brand new. Might be a little finicky. The bed's brand new. Everything's brand new. There you have it. All right. Okay, I like where it is. If this were a glass bed, I would have done this, the glass bed heated, because of a lot more expansion and contraction as it heats and cools. Heats and cools. Okay guys, guess what time it is? Time to level the bed. I like to save my settings manually, so we're going to go to Control, press Store Configuration to make sure you saved your Z offset and everything else, okay? Always go to Store after I make a change. Now that you've done your manual tramming and your manual Z offset, we are going to do the auto bed leveling part right here on the menu by going back, clicking on level, and waiting. The machine is now going to use the probe to check the bed in several rows from front to back. It will study the inconsistencies in the job we did manually tramming the bed with the wheels, and it's going to map that out to create a mesh. And if that mesh is good enough and our tramming is good enough, our prints should be successful. Okay, supposedly the mesh has been created. We are going to go to Control and Store Configuration to be sure we saved that mesh. Okay, now that we're done leveling our bed and setting our Z offset, it's time for the good part. We're going to run our first test print using the included G-code file on the memory card we stuck in the machine earlier. Before we do that, I want you to feel this belt right here. It should be kind of taut, not overly loose, but not overly tight. If it's a little loose, just take this knob and turn it to the right a little bit. If it's a little tight, turn it to the left a little bit. You'll get used to how it feels over time. It should be just a little tight and a little springy, but not too tight. Over here, you'll notice there's another one. Same thing. It's in here. Take your finger, feel it. Feel underneath. Is it sagging under there? Is it sagging under there, or is it kind of tight? You can give your knob just a little turn. Just see what it feels like. Make sure it's good and snug. Okay, so once you're happy with that, get back to your main menu. Go to Print. We are going to scroll down, and I'm going to print a cat. You'll see the temperature for the bed has been raised to 60. The current temperature is 30. When the bed is done heating, the nozzle, which is this top number, will set its temperature. And then of course the left number is the current temperature. When they both reach temperature, the print will start. Now you'll see the temperature is set to 200 and the hot end is heating up. You'll also notice that it says there's no filament in the printer. Because you have a filament runout sensor, it knows this. Let's add some filament while it continues warming up. We're going to take our filament and slide it over the holder. I am going to use the clippers that came with the printer and clip the end off. You always want a nice flush end right there, right? Take the filament through the runout sensor, pull it down. This little lever on your hot end, push your thumb on it and press it down, pushing the filament into the little hole all the way down till you feel a touch of resistance. Continue pushing and press confirm. It will now load the rest of the filament itself and the print's going to begin. So this is very important. This is the first look at our Z adjustment and our tramming. It's going to make a wipe line on the side of the print bed, and we're going to see how that line prints. If our Z offset's really bad, it might grind into the bed or it might not stick at all. So be ready in case there's a problem. So far looking okay. What I'm going to do is go into the menu, click on Tune, click on Z offset, and I'm just going to watch. Now this is the skirt. This is my favorite way to tell if your print's okay. Take your finger and rub on it. Is it moving or is it staying put? If it's staying put, you're pretty much okay. But if it looks really flat or really thin or feels like sandpaper, you might want to bring your Z offset up just a touch to get a slightly thicker line. Just kind of feeling it like that. I'm bringing mine up at just a little touch. And then click to set it. You can continue watching that first layer. You're going to feel it with your finger. Does it feel rough? Does it feel like sandpaper? Does it look uneven? Does it look really thin? Can you see the bed through it? If it looks super, super thin, you can see the bed through it. You might want to bring it up just a little touch more. It's okay if you blow this print. It really doesn't matter. You're just testing, right? So I'm feeling. It's a small print, so it can be challenging to do that. Just have to kind of wait. There you go. When you have your Z offset correct and you feel the line, it won't have a rough sandpaper feel to it. It'll have a soft, kind of smooth, glossy feel to it. So I brought my Z offset up just a touch since we started this print, and I'm liking how it's looking a lot better now. Don't be afraid to move it up. If it starts unsticking, that's okay. This is just a test. You can just cancel and start over again, and your next print will be better. So don't be afraid to mess with your settings to get them right. All right, let's let this thing go and see what happens. Okay, so that little cat right there is your first test print. If it didn't work out, don't panic. You likely have a tramming or Z offset issue, and you just need to go and make minor adjustments. Check your paper with the corners and your knobs. Check your Z offset the same way we did it the first time. Just go through it again, double check everything, do a test print, and work with that Z offset adjustment to get the layers just where you want it. If you get that first layer just right, the rest of your layers will more likely be okay. The first layer is critical, so don't panic if it doesn't work out. Go back, readjust your Z, readjust your tramming. Start with your Z unless it's really bad. Unless you see like thick over here, thin over there, real bad inconsistency, which you shouldn't. Start with your Z, look at your tramming if you need to. I have separate videos for troubleshooting, but for now, that's how you get the Ender 3 S1 set up, printing right on your first try. How about that? Now, this is a magnetic bed. Super easy to remove the print. Just grab the tab, pull it forward because the steppers have automatically disabled since the print finished. Peel it up and peel off your cat. Stick the bed back on. These are supports. They pop right off, leaving you with your very first print, little Mr. Cat, who happens to be hollow. All right, so there it is. We set up the Ender 3 S1, did the tramming and the Z offset, and our first successful print. First time, first try. No need to do anything crazy. These full-size bed test patterns that people are doing, all kinds of bizarre things with tin foil and whatnot. Use my method, doing the paper method, setting your Z offset properly, using the auto mesh properly, and you will have no problem getting your Ender 3 S1 printing perfectly day one.